Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As Zane just said, I'm Kamil Witecki, and today we'll talk about architecture and why is it not everything. So it's a do's and don'ts of software architecture. But before we'll continue, let's have a big hand for Zane and other people involved in organizing this conference, shall we? Spoilers. So, we're going to talk about architecture. We have seen quite a lot of development recently in that area. All of us have seen the advent of the microservices, a move into distributed computing. A little back earlier we have seen the revolution of multi-core CPUs that revolutionized the way we write code and we design architecture, and we will not be talking about that. But if you are starting your next project, you are tasked to select an architecture. Will you choose microservices or monolithic design? Who is for microservices? Raise your hand. Who would choose monolithic design? Your hands, please. Okay. I have seen like half of people in general selected something. Half of you didn't raise hand at all. And when it comes to monolithic design versus microservices, it was more or less the same number of people for both. What I want to tell you today, what I want to convince you, is that everybody who already raised the hand should reconsider the choice, because you are not given enough information to make the choice. And that's what we are going to talk about. So, I strongly believe that every software architect on this earth, on this planet, is extremely good technical person. Somebody with great skills, understands very well technical aspects of every project. But that's not enough to actually deliver great architecture. To deliver great architecture, such person must take into account additional 3 different things. This will be users involved in the application, organization who is developing the project, executing it, and business that we are supposed to make from that application. Applications do not exist in vain, and we must take into account the context where we execute the application and for whom. Now, when I am talking about users, and you have just had a thought that maybe this guy is not talking to me because I am doing library or middleware, you're wrong. Because even if you do library, other programmers are your users. So take them into your account. If you are selecting, for example, an architecture of microservices, have on your mind that somebody will have to maintain it, and the guy who will deploy it is your user as well. So if there are 30 Docker images, he will hate you. When we are talking about organization, we have plethora of choices. There is broad spectrum of organizations. On one end, we'll have startups, like 5, 10, maybe 20 persons, all extremely involved, sitting in one room, everything done locally. The guy doing architecture probably does business decisions. The guy being PO sits next to the sales guy, so they know everything. On the other hand, we'll have enterprises, where the team of business people, the sales guys, hates the technical guys, and vice versa. They do not talk to each other because of something that happened 20 years ago, but it still lives. So the 2 organizations will be different, and you need to take that into account if you want to really deliver the product in the end. And last but not least is business. If we are doing any project, no matter if it's commercial one or open source, we are doing some kind of business. We want something from that project. Unless you are coding just to learn something, but then it's your business that you are getting from it. You are learning, you are gaining knowledge. If you are delivering open source, you want to show the world what you did, and you have hopes that somebody will use it. So there is always some business, some interest behind your development and behind your design. Never ignore it. Now, software architects are technical leaders. Well-selected leader somebody who takes into account the whole project, everybody who is involved. He will help to realize the mission. He will align with the goals, he will support everyone, and the project goes smoothly. If the software architect behaves as he was a boss, and he demands that this and that technical solution must be done, I don't care about users, or I don't care about who deploys it, I don't care about business. He's not leader, he is a boss. He creates additional pressure, and unfortunately, this guy is not helping to reach the mission. He is not helping to reach the goal. Even if he thinks he does the best he could, unfortunately, he creates additional burden. That's why it's very important to take other factors, not only technical ones, into account. Now, I will tell you a story. There was a guy, but this guy, he had a little bit of drawback. He was betting money on horses. Every Sunday, he went to the track, he chose a horse, and he was betting money on that very horse. And obviously, the odds were that he will be losing, so he was losing. But the guy was not stupid, you know. He had an idea that he will take 3 of his colleagues, a chemist, an engineer, and theoretical physicist, and gave them simple task. Guys, I need the horse to be the fastest possible horse. So they took his words, they went home. After a month, they are meeting together again. He is asking his colleague, the chemist, dear chemist, what have you come with? And the chemist says that, you know, I have made this great solution. You inject the horse, you take the syringe, you inject it. It's like steroids, but it's untraceable. Horse will do everything possible to win, and after the race, nobody can trace it. That's a good solution. The guy thought, okay, here we are. I will start making money out of it. But maybe the other guys has great ideas too. Let's see. So you, my friend, dear engineer, what is your idea about solving the problem? You know, jockeys has these boots. The boots, if you kick the horse right way, it gives the horse very strong signal that it must speed up. But unfortunately, it requires very good jockey and very good boot to do that properly. But I have designed perfect boots. Nobody, doesn't matter who wears the boot. If he kicks the horse, the boot is so good, it always hits the sweet spot. And the horse goes as fast as it can. Another great idea. I have 2 already. And then he asked his last colleague, the theoretical physicist, full of hopes. 2 good ideas already. What is the 3rd one? So he is asking, and you, physicist, what you have came up with? And the physicist opens his book, reverses the page, and starts reading. Let us assume a perfectly spherical horse in vacuum will let you finish the exercise by taking into account the real environment. So, as you might guess, the theoretical physicist didn't really do well. He did what he was asked. He have designed the perfect horse, the fastest possible probably, in the greatest possible environment, just not in the real one. And this happens if you ignore users, organizations, and business, and you take care only about your technical aspects. Technical aspects are for us, we know them, we live them, but we cannot ignore others. Now, let's jump into details. We'll start with users. This is how an average user looks once or twice a year, maybe more often, maybe less. But when you design your application, it doesn't matter if we are talking about UI designers or we are talking about architect who prepares something that adult developers will use. One day or another, we have no idea what is really going on in that software. And what we want to avoid is this phase. We do not want our users to look like this guy. We want them to be happy. That's why we provide software for them. And I would like to say that to provide good software for users, we must take into account who they are, who is the actor in our system. If I am doing an application, I am not a role model for a user. I know the application very well. I have certain skill set that not everybody has. If the application is done for average person, I should ask average person what he can do. Am I then average person? Are you an average person? No. Average person doesn't exist. There is no such thing. So we must do research. We must learn what an average user of application will be capable of doing. Let's consider a simple example, a library. If you think about library management, you might think that it would be good to have possibility to locate a book in a library. You know, library like the one with books and shelves. So you'd like to locate a book in library. And now, if you are a technical person, obviously you will like to look for books by the genre, the author, the title, that's obvious. But if you are thinking about feature, utilizing regular expressions to find a book because you know some words related to it and you have some quote but you do not know it well and you would like to have an approximate match, stop. You know regular expressions, you know approximate matches, regular user of library will not. So make sure you are preparing an application for somebody who will actually use the application and not for yourself. The next thing is a goal. We must understand why and what for the user wants that application. In case of library, it's simple. The goal is to locate a book. And that's all we must give to the user. The user doesn't need from us the information that he wants, can find a book in a bookstore somewhere else. He wants it in that library. Give him the row, give him the number, the shelf, and let him go. Do not give him too much information. He's not interested in the fact that the book was written because somebody did something 100 years ago. It's a nice fact, but the user went to library to find the book. And the next thing is that even if the goal is the same for different actors, the purpose might be different. If I am looking for a book, I want to go home and read it. I want to enjoy myself, or I want to learn something from the book, but I want to read it. But there are different people whose goal is also to find out where the book is located in the library, but they do not care about this kind of things at all. They will not care about title, they will not care about author, they will not care about genre. These are maintenance people. They want to find a book that requires renovating. And now, the goal is the same. I want to go there, take the book, and do something with it. But the purpose is different. I wanted to read it, the guy wants to take it and renovate it. So we must think who all the actors are. We cannot optimize it for one person. We must think what are the different use cases, what are the purposes that drive the use cases, and only then we can actually come up with good solution. So for an average reader, it will be some kind of search function by author, title, genre, maybe some recommendation system. You have read that, and that book. You might like this one. But for a person who is maintaining books, he doesn't care, but he would like to get information if there were complaints about this particular copy. He would like to learn if that book was renovated long time ago or just recently. He might be willing to find totally different information, even though in the end both guys just go, take a book from a shelf and get back. And they will have very similar skill sets. Average maintainer and average person reading books, they will not differ much. We're similar people. So we cannot really think about them as totally different actors. They are related. Actually, the guy who is renovating books, he probably reads them too. Now, how do we, architects, engineers, depict use cases, actors, purposes? We're using diagrams similar to this one. This is standard UML 2.0. I'm sure you know it. Do you know UML? Who knows UML? Raise your hand. Yes, I thought so. Almost everybody. So if we have use cases, different use cases, we'll have some actors like waiter, client, cashier, and chef. Just from the actors, you can guess this is about a restaurant. There are some use cases involved. The waiter will receive an order that client places. The client will eat food when it's served by a waiter. Chef will cook food. Cashier will get the payment, accept the payment. Client will pay. Waiter will facilitate the payment, so probably go there, take money, provide the check, and so on and so on. Looking just at the diagram, we can get an idea what it is all about. But we do not know the actual context and actual environment. It is synthetic. Looking at the diagram, I can tell you that I do not need really waiter to receive the order. I can have a big bulky machine right next to the entrance where you go, click few positions, select what you want to order, and the order is placed. You just cut one use case for waiter. You made his life easier. And that's very good. That's why they are willing to get applications from us, to make their life easier. But the problem is that this picture is synthetic. If we take a look at an actual restaurant, if we go there, it turns out it's not this kind of restaurant. If you take your significant other to a fancy restaurant, you are not really expecting a bulky machine next to an entrance, really. I guess you would be expecting somebody to serve you, somebody to lit a candle for you. You are expecting to be treated differently. So you need not only understand what are the use cases, but why somebody wants to execute them. You need to understand, not only read the use cases, but to understand them. What is the need to have the use case? What is the need? Why these people still execute it? And you must know what kind of actors you are addressing. Now, this is a fun fact, because this quote is given to Henry Ford, but we have never really found out a proof that he said anything like that. We'll probably never learn if Henry Ford said something like that or he didn't, but it sells the point. So be wary when you are asking your users what they would like to get. If I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for a faster horse. What you can learn from it is that people are not really good at envisaging change. We are very good and willing quantitative changes. I want something faster, I want it better, I want it stronger, I want it lighter, and so on and so on. But we are not good at envisaging new things, something that does not exist. In that case, the good answer wasn't faster horse at all. It wasn't horse at all, it wasn't an animal at all. It was the car, it was an engine. But the real question in that case wasn't actually faster horse either. The question was faster means of communication. So we must understand that when we ask user what he needs, he might be telling us something different than he actually needs. Because of the miscommunication, because things lost in the translation, or simply because we cannot envisage different solutions. Now, let's talk a bit about organization. As we said at the beginning, the organizations are different. Small startups, small teams, all together, everybody communicates openly with everybody, and enterprises with a lot of politics, different business lines, different people, somebody working in one time zone, somebody in another. You cannot provide one solution for both. If you think that the same architecture of a big project can be executed by both, you will see that it can't. We'll start this one with a quote. You see, the last one I have finished with a quote, the one I start with a quote, there is a pattern. So this one, the quote, actually has an author. Melvin Conway said that organizations which design systems are constrained to produce designs which are copies of internal communication flows inside of the organization. Let it grasp, let it sink for a while. What do we learn from that sentence? What Melvin Conway wanted to convey to us? He wanted to tell us that no matter how good architecture you will provide, how good architecture you will prepare, it will get twisted according to the organization. So if you come up with a monolithic design, but you have two teams that do not talk to each other because they hate each other for historical reasons, you will end up with two different components. It's guaranteed. One day or another they will do it. It won't be documented, the interface will not be well designed, but they will do everything possible not to communicate at all. And in the end, you will end up with different architecture that you think, but they will lie to you that they have realized your architecture just not to get yelled at. So if I haven't convinced you with that simple quote, let's do an exercise. We have a very simple architecture. It is not important what it does and why it was created. But we have 6 components, some producers, some consumers, controller, dispatcher of operations. And we have 3 teams. But to make the exercise a bit harder, one team is located in East Asia, UTC +6. One team is somewhere in Europe, UTC +1, UTC +2. One team in North America, UTC -9. So you can already see there is an issue with that setup. They cannot communicate quite well because of the sheer time difference. To make it a bit more problematic, the teams, none of the team actually speaks natively English very well. They have totally different cultural background. They come up from totally different countries with totally different history and totally different approach to society. So they have totally different backgrounds, both in language, in culture, and additionally, they are in 3 different, very remote time zones. So if I haven't convinced you so far, you will tell me that this assignment is good. Red, yellow, and violet represent different teams. Okay. From the very, very silent laughter, I get you got the point. In this case, this will be a nightmare. Even if the teams are the best on the world, they want to cooperate, they are willing to help each other, they will suffer just from the fact that they are working remotely. Any decision in this assignment must be taken remotely. No discussion about any of the interfaces can be done locally, and you need to wait few hours, 6, 9 hours, to get a response, because simply when you are in office, the others either already left it or will go there in 9 hours. So I think, and I hope you think so too, that this kind of assignment is way better. We are actually leveraging the fact that we have teams in different time zones. We have one team taking care of 2 components, strongly coupled, working together locally. We have another component here. They can make their own decisions about the interfaces they own. The violet team, unfortunately, is in a bit worse situation because it still needs to cooperate with 2 teams. But that's as good as we could have done this exercise with the assumptions we made. Now, the last part, last but not least, is business. Who has ever heard a technical person, with an architect, saying something like, they don't know business, I know business better because I am working with that product, I know what my users want from me, even the guy never talked with anybody, any of the users of the application. Have you ever heard such architects? If you have, raise your hand. Were these guys fired? Hopefully. Because if you know better the business, maybe you shouldn't be an architect. Go into business, show them how it's done. It's easy to sit on the back place and tell everybody how it should be done if you do not take responsibility for your actions. What I would like you to do is to never tell these guys what to do. You can discuss with them that you have ideas, and obviously you should. But discuss with them. Don't tell others that you know better, in a pantry probably or in a bar. Just have an open communication with these people. And now the guys from business, they have a bit different understanding from technical people, and we will usually struggle to reach the common agreement. This is because we have totally different goals. Our goal, technical goal, is to come up with great architecture, come up with scalability, make it according to all the principles, according to Solid, and so on and so on. And their goal is to push the product to the market, to make profit, to earn money, to pay our salaries. There are few things that we must agree with them. First of all is the time to market demand. If you have a project that must be shipped on a very specific date, on a very specific spot, you should do that. There might be great reasons you have to do that. For example, if the legislation in a country changes, and a new law will apply from that date, you may actually get prosecuted if you do not comply. So in this case, you do not want really to miss the date. In this case, you would like to let go. You would like to meet the target. But if you're doing some innovative project that is more about research and less about making profit for company, and the date can slip for even a month and nothing happens, discuss with your business people that, okay, we can make a way better product. If it's research product, we actually benefit from the fact that it's better, but it will slip for 2 months. But we'll deliver this and that additional value. And they will like to listen to you, because they want to learn your opinions as well, but you need to give them to them and not force them. The next one is business model and roadmap. There are totally different business models on Earth. Different companies working differently. There is also a spectrum of business models. There are projects that I call fire and forget. So you write code, execute the project, release it and forget. This is more or less what happens with applications on your phone very often. You download it, it's great. When will you implement the new feature, or when will you fix the bug? Oh, we are not working on that project anymore, sorry. And on the other end of the scale, on the other end of the spectrum, we'll have enterprises, for example, operating systems. You release the software 1 year, 6 months from it, you release service pack. Every month, you release maintenance packets. After 2 years, you release next version. After 6 years, you release next version. After 15 years, you release next version. Look at POSIX. The interfaces of POSIX were designed how many years ago? 30? 40? And they are still applicable today. We couldn't have done POSIX as we would did the application that we fire and forget. So we need to learn what the business model is. Will you have to maintain the application or not? If you don't have to maintain it, you should probably let go. It doesn't matter if your architecture is very extendable and open if you are not going to extend it. On the other hand, if you need your application to be maintained for a long time, put a pressure on that. Explain that you need to invest additional time into making this application better, because otherwise you will not be able to deliver the next maintenance packet. So it's all the game of business model, the game of needs. And then if you are already in the business model that requires long-time maintenance, ask about roadmap. Your business people, they will have some idea what are the features waiting in queue. Ask them about the features. Probably you can provide an architecture today that will serve or simplify implementation in future. Obviously, with roadmap, it is more or less like with weather forecast. If they tell you today that the day after tomorrow there will be rain in Wrocław, okay, probably there will be. If they tell me that a year from now there will be rain in Wrocław, really, a year from now, and you want me to believe. So you need to know that short term they usually do very well, mid term more or less, but it changes. In different markets it changes differently. In some markets it changes very rapidly, so even month-long roadmap doesn't hold. Indifferent, a year-long roadmap is more or less okay. It depends, but learn it from your business people. And take into account what would they want to do. It's that simple. Maybe if you see the long-term roadmap and they show you there is some feature 2 years from now, but you see that you can deliver it today for free because your architecture actually does that. The only thing you need to do is to test if it works, but of course we are all testing our code, so it will probably work, right? Who is not testing the code? Okay, there is one guy. I guess you are joking. So we can help not only to make product better, but to deliver features faster if you consider the roadmap. And then learn who the target customer is. And now I guess you might have this kind of feeling in your head that we already spoke about users. The customer and the user, two different things. Customer is somebody who actually uses application, deploys it, and user is somebody who uses the application, deploys it, of course, and customer, oh, this is a guy who pays money for it. Right now, we are just before Christmas, and you will see the difference between users and customers very well when parents are buying computer games for their children. Parents are the customers, they have no idea what this is. They put this funny thing into that black, very hot box and do something with it, but the kids, the users, they love it. So there is a difference between customer and the user. And you will like to take into account who the customer is and what kind of customer you are dealing with. Are you dealing with word market, pushing an application to shops, and they are just grabbing it from a shelf, going to cash and pay for it? Or are you having a business-to-business relationship or business-to-government? Because if you are dealing with business to business, one customer, one vendor, you can have open discussion that this, and that features are needed, we need it. This, and that we are not interested in. Okay, they want integration with this email client, we charge a little bit extra, we do it for them. That's fine. But then, if you are making a word market product, if you push like 5 different integrations with emails, then it might turn out that the cost of the additional integrations you did will never pay off. Because people will look at your application and, okay, I like it because it does what I need, but it's very pricey. So probably you should release just the core application and sell the integrations as additional features, like DLCs in computer games. So make sure you understand your customer and make sure what they need. And if you are delivering something to warm market, try to keep it small and well-defined so that people can get used to it, but extendable so that you can sell additional features and make profit even after some time. And it will actually help you with one more thing. If you first deliver the core applications and integrations, additional features later on, you can actually start to earn money earlier and keep you running. So let us see what all this distills into. So let's summarize it. I would like you to remember, and I hope I convinced you, that software architect or any other technical leader doesn't exist in vain and must take into account users, their happiness level, their needs, who they are, what are their goals and purposes, and the actual environment where they are working, where they are living and using the application. I want you to remember that the organization developing the project is also very important, and no matter how good your architecture is, if you ignore the organization will twist your design, your deed, to something that is something different that you actually had on your mind. So think about it a priori. And last but not least is the business. We are doing software for business. We have interest in doing software. And if so, align with the business people and make sure that you are actually delivering what is needed. Thank you very much for your attention. This will be time for Q&A session. If you have any questions, I'm open and I'm all ears.
Who wants to ask the first question? No questions. Come on, guys. I hope you were not sleeping.
I have seen some guys sleeping, but only few, so it's very good.
Okay, so we did good job. Okay, any questions? Don't be shy. Okay, so I don't see any questions from the audience. Let me ask this question to you, because you are an architect in Nokia.
Yes, I did.
Did you use everything that you just mentioned today?
Yes, I did my best to do that. It wasn't easy. I have to admit that discussions with business people weren't very easy, because we had different goals. Every time we struggled to actually understand each other, but it paid off. We have actually delivered the software that everybody thought won't be possible to deliver in that time. When it comes to organization, I really didn't have chance to optimize for the organization, simply because I didn't know what the organization will be. It was changing during that time, and I didn't know yet what we will be working with. Afterwards, we're trying to change the existing architecture so that it leverages the natural communication channels we had in the new organization that we woke up in.
Interesting. So from your perspective, which three of them are the hardest in terms of communication with other people?
I guess it will differ from project to project. In my previous company, I was working in software development for web designs and web applications, e-commerce, and then certainly the discussions with our customers and users were the toughest ones, because we not only could have discussed with them the technical parts, it involved business, and it wasn't a very, how to call it, it wasn't on our turf. So we were discussing already with the customer and in front of customer. It was a totally different relationship than discussing with business people with whom you can speak openly. Speaking with somebody from different organization who is actually paying you money is a different relationship than speaking to the sales guys from your own organization. So this was the toughest for me back then.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Last chance. I don't see any.
There is one, I guess, if I see correctly.
Oh, there is one, yes.
Hello. Kamil, on your title page, on the title page of your presentation, we can see this heavy dark clouds.
Yes?
Was it made intentional or?
Yes, it was made intentionally. It was made intentionally because I had to have a dark background so that the letters are very well visible.
Thank you.